What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? This is another episode of Crazy Good Talks with your boy. And tweak this just a little bit. And yeah, so we are going to hop right into this. Trill, for real. This is gonna be good. I have a couple of things that I've kind of been working through, and yeah. So without further ado, the first thing I want to get into is perception of yourself, right? I found this very interesting. It was very interesting to me. The idea of who you think you are, right? Who you think you are and who people see you as is two different things. I ran across this post on Facebook, and it was talking about that, and it's talking about this book. It had some passage from it. I can't remember what it is, but I definitely want to get to that book. But it made me think, like that whole concept kind of blew my mind, because I was like, wow, it's something like I would like think about sometimes, like in the back of my head. Like, I'm constantly wondering, like, how do other people perceive me? Right? How do other people see me? And not in the sense of so much that, yes, I care about how people perceive me, but not even so much that, but more in the sense of where am I skewed? Where do I think I'm doing better than I'm actually not, right? It's like me as a person, I know me as a person and like the different things I've been through, and I can kind of put the complete picture together. But when I run and then I encounter different people, you're actually only getting a tad bit of information versus what I have in my head, or versus what I know, or versus my past that I have knowledge of, or versus my real thoughts, or whatever the case may be that may run through my head that I try not to say. And so it's like sometimes I feel like how do I say this? Sometimes I feel like when I'm talking to somebody or I share an idea with somebody, they should fully understand or fully get what I'm trying to say. But the thing is they're only getting that tad bit of information. They're not getting all of the context that I've gotten or throughout my life to make me think the way I think. Right? They don't see all those nuances, and vice versa. Right? So it's like, it's a funny thing, because oftentimes I run into situations where it's like I meet somebody, or I'm meet somebody new, or even somebody just I haven't seen in a while, or whatever the case may be, and I feel like they see my life from an outside looking in, and I feel like sometimes they think, I don't want to say I'm doing better than what I think. I think they see what they see on a surface level and make assumptions, and sometimes they subconsciously or unconsciously, but I realize it because it's something that I always try to stray from. Like they put you on this type of pedestal, and not even in a way of like idling you to worship you or whatever the case may be. But I feel like people do this with other people all the time. They put you on some type of pedestal for good intentions and for bad intentions. Like they try to isolate you or pin you down to be like, okay, you're this type of person, or you're this, or you're that, so that when something happens, it could be like, oh my gosh, like, I don't even know, I can't believe that such and such and such and such, like, and I always see the setup of that. Like I always see the setup. So like at times I have trouble like communicating with people and sharing with people, because I'm like, or not even that I have trouble sharing with them. At times I bash myself purposefully, right? I'll bash myself purposefully because I'm just like, I don't want you to have that picture of what you think in your head, because even if you think you're doing me a service by thinking of me that way, you're not. Because you're ultimately just waiting for a downfall moment so that you can, or that's how I perceive it. Because I've seen it done I've seen so many people do it to others. The whole idea of fame is believing in the underdog, but then when the underdog gets there, finding a way to tear them down so you could be like, oh my gosh. It's like the whole idea of fame is like watching how far somebody can go up, and they want you to go higher and higher and higher, but not for the reason that you think, because the higher you go, the harder you fall, right? And when you're on the top, it's like nobody's there, nobody's really rooting for you. They're rooting for you to fall, but then when you fall, they want to see you get back up. They want to see how high you can go again. For what? For the next what? For the next downfall. Like, and I know that may be a cynical way to look at things, but it's just like, I think as people, we are cynical. You know what I mean? And it's just like the perception of who you think you are. Like, so I guess I say all of that to say, stop beating yourself up for the perception that you have of yourself, because to everyone else, that person doesn't even exist. Right? That person doesn't even, to everyone else, that person doesn't even exist. They don't have the context that you have. People don't know your deepest, darkest secret. They don't know, like, they don't have the context that you have for, and it's like, so you're beating yourself up. So they don't have the context. So it's like you're beating yourself up for this idea of this person that doesn't even exist in anybody else's mind. I'm not saying that to not say, don't try to better yourself, or don't try to improve, and don't try to, whatever the case may be. But it's just like, if you're anxiously thinking about this and like what others think of you matters, I just think I think it's funny to realize, like, that person that you're obsessing about, good and bad, that you see is like that to the other person, to whoever it is, that's not even their perception. It may be parts of that perception that's true to them, but like all of it is not true, because they don't know what you know. That was like mind-boggling to me. And like I said, I want to get to that book. I don't even remember the name of the book, but I want to get to that book, because I know that insight is powerful. Just from that one passage, the idea of that was crazy to me. So I definitely want to get to that book. But yeah, the perception of self, that was just very, very interesting to me. Another thing that I've been learning is like the template of life. Like, if anybody knows me, I am a systems person. Like, I love building systems, having systems. I'm always like, I just need to find my routine. Like, I'm that type of person. Like I like setting things into motion, and then having things to be functional so that they can just work, so just be in a system. So it's just like, one thing I realized is, I don't want to say a lot of us don't have a template for life, because I can't speak for other people, but I just feel like as I look around, it doesn't seem, it's like the idea of what life is supposed to be, or what you're supposed to be going after, or like, what's your basis? How do you live this life? Like, you know what I mean? And not even from like yes, on a dream standpoint of like going for your dreams and this and that, but like even on a simpler point of like, what is your plan? Like, I can only relate it to a business, right? Like, so when you're creating a business, you create a business plan, right? And you're following those plans. You have different objectives that you want to get to, and you understand year 3 is going to be different from year 5 to year 7 to year 12 to year whatever the case may be. And that business is constantly, once it reaches a mark, it's constantly looking to grow. It's looking to create new products so that it can sustain or grow revenue. Its whole objective is to continue to grow, right? But like when you look at the great businesses, it's not even just about profit margins. It's about providing a service that can help the general population, that can help the population. It goes deeper. It goes to, how can I contribute? How can I help? And then they focus on that. And then if you make a great product, then the money comes. Like, it's ultimately about money, but it's like when you look at the big businesses, they're trying to solve an issue. And I'm just like, I start reading a lot about that, and I'm just like, okay, with my life, it's like, where am I trying to go? What am I trying to do? Like what's the template? Where should I be? What should it look like at 27 versus what should it look like at 37? Like, I feel like a lot of the reasons why we rush to try to get things done by 27 or by 30 or by, I need to be a millionaire by this age, or I need to be successful by this age, is to impress the other people that are around us, or the people that look like they've got it all figured out. But who are you basing your template off life of? Right? Because I've always been a firm believer of like, life is long, like it's a long-term play. So it's just like, okay, that's cool, you're doing good now, and I'm happy, great, but it's life is long. You got 30, you got 40, you got 50, you got 60, you got 70. And it's just like, if you're not doing the foundational things to build for long term, you're hit. Like, one of the biggest things that stand out to me is like trying to figure out, I keep trying to think of whatever it is that I want to do, but I want it to sustain me through 80, 90, like years old. Lord willing, he gives me that, right? And I'm just like, because so many people play for retirement, and it's like, oh, when I retire, is that, and then it's done. But it's just like, I've seen different people go into retirement, and it's just like, now what? You still have a life. Like, you still have a life, like, but you weren't playing for the long game. Like, you were just playing for those moments. So it's just like, I just feel like having a templating life in some type of way, finding someone that's done it before, done what you're looking to do, or whatever the case may be. I think that becomes crucial, because even going back to the Dave Ramsey financial peace course that I've been taking, I think that has revolutionized, it's like the Apple iPhone, that has revolutionized my thought process and theory on like my personal life. Because I realized I was building a lot out of like, okay, Josh the artist, Josh the speaker, Josh the whatever the case may be, like, but it was no foundation or template for my life, my personal life. Like, and it's just like, all of the things I've kind of learned in that course is common knowledge. But when you put all of that common knowledge in one book back to back to back, and you have steps to follow, so you know, like you always hear the basic things of save your emergency fund. You need an emergency fund. You need get out of debt, such and such and such and such. I realized that I knew all of these things, but it's like, what was your why? For what, right? But then when you break it down, and it's just like, okay, get your, pay off debt and then get your emergency fund. And then that way, when you have your emergency fund, okay, now start thinking about saving for investing, savings for retirement, savings for this, savings for that, like paying for things cash versus being on debt, because it's just, I don't know, it just all makes sense when you read it back to back to back to back, like when you have a template. And it's just like, I'm like, I wish I had that book when I was coming out of high school. I wish I had that. But I got to be honest with myself. I don't know if I would have the understanding that I do now. I think I had to kind of go through what I went through to really appreciate what it is now and really grasp and understand it. But I think templating life is very important. And then the kind of last thing is it's just like growing yourself and working on you. Right? Growing yourself and working on you. Okay, you have your career. Okay, you have your relationship. Okay, you have a relationship with your kids. Okay, but what about you? How much time are you putting into you? How much time have you put in this past year to learn how to become a better brother? How much time have you put in this past year to learn how to become a better husband? What does that mean? How much time have you put in this year to become a better father? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean to be how much time are you just self-developing yourself? You know what I mean? I think that's crucial and that's key. And it's just like, again, looking at things from the longer point of view, like looking at things like it's not just today, like looking at things towards the future. Like, think about this. I was talking to somebody. It was a good conversation, so something came up. I asked a question and it really hit me. And it wasn't in this context, but I'll say it in this context too. So it's just like, what percentage of years have to be good for you to have lived a good life, right? So if you lived an average of 80 years old or 70 years old, how many of those years had to be good years for you to say, okay, I feel like my life was quote unquote a good life, like I was a good life or it was a successful life. And I don't say that, I don't think that there's a real answer to that, but I say that to put it in perspective of understanding that life is long, right? So even if you're having a bad month, a bad week, a bad year, a bad 5 years. So if you had the worst 5 years of your life at 25 and then you're 30 and you never seen bad after that, that's not gonna happen. But like you never seen bad after that. But in the midst of you couldn't get yourself past that 4 years, think, oh, it's forever going to be this. Not understanding you had another 40 years to live where your life was so much easier. And that's what I think. I think we're not looking at things from a long-term point of view. And when you start looking at things from a long-term point of view, you have, for me at least, it's like you gain some type of peace of like, okay, wait, okay, we gonna be good. Like, we gonna be good. Like, this is tough right now. Okay, I understand that, but then it's gonna move. And I'm not saying that it's easy to say, yeah, appreciate the moments, the good and the bad, and the such and such. I'm not saying it's supposed to be easy, but I'm just saying it's going to help perspective-wise to be like, okay, like relative to, like, it wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't, like, when you put it in perspective, when you step back and look at it from the whole story, you're like, okay, I get it. Like, okay. So it's just, like I said, challenging yourself to keep growing and keep working on you personally. And what the compound effects of that are. So it's just like, how much time a week, a day do you spend on you, like developing you and growing you? I think that's the challenge. But that's going to be it. But it's crazy good talks. with your boy.